Welcome to the AI Corner. I'm your host, Mike Bailey, here to spotlight the people shaping New Zealand's AI future. In today's episode, we're speaking with Blake Harkness. Blake is a graduate network engineer at MainPower and founder of Harkness AI. Blake is one of the new generation of AI engineers reshaping how essential services are run, from drone inspections to regulation bots. Blake's building it all, which is awesome to see. Welcome to the pod, Blake.
Thank you very much. It's cool to be here.
Awesome. What first pulled you into AI?
Yeah, so I went to university to study mechatronic engineering up in Palmerston North. And about halfway through my degree, I kind of found ChatGPT and started playing around with it and realized really quickly that it can do all of my assignments, all of my tests, write all the code, do all of my projects for me a hell of a lot better than I can and a lot faster. And that was a bit of a oh crap moment. And knowing technology, it's only going to go up from there. And so that kind of really changed my perspective of where I wanted to go career-wise. So I continued experimenting with a whole lot of different tools as I was going through my uni degree. And towards the end of the degree, I had a few different job offers. And one was down at MainPower that was kind of the obvious choice. And the role was pretty much looking at AI and data across the business and how they could implement that, which is really cool, as we know that AI is definitely going to be the future. Going into MainPower, it's been really awesome to kind of understand the whole business aspect and given a bit of freedom to actually explore AI and the different tool sets and what you can do in a real world setting and do it from across the business. I'm not just focused on one part of our area. It's actually talking with the HR, the finance, the assets team, the whole wide range. And it's kind of really where I was able to realize the actual use cases and all the different possibilities that you can use AI from. And then from there, I really enjoyed teaching and helping people out. So I started posting on LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok, some kind of how-to tutorial-like posts. And that also kind of then led into Harkness AI with people reaching out, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Or can you build this for me? So that's kind of how I got into the space. And it's been really awesome since.
That's awesome. Did you find at university that you were one of few looking into this technology and seeing the potential, or did you have find a cohort of individuals that you were building with, and how did that kind of get fostered in itself?
Yeah, so we only had 11 of us in our university degree. They cut the whole degree after I left, but unfortunate timing for the rest of the ones that were in it. However, we all kind of did talk around about AI and understanding those use cases. And we had a pretty cool lecturer, actually, even though at the time, Massey's policy was pretty much against AI use for any kind of assignments. He realized once we go in the workforce, why would we not be using these tools? And kind of actually started to teach us how we could use ChatGPT to code and do our assignments for us. So that was really cool.
So, I mean, it's super important, right? The educator is, at the end of the day, the linchpin, the person who's coaching people on how to get ready for the workforce. And I think if you've got professors or teachers that are putting the brakes on how people are supposed to be using these tools and not actually preparing them to say, hey, you should use your brain where you can and as much as possible, but there are some tasks where AI is fundamentally better and you should consider using them as a co-pilot or a thought partner, whatever that needs to be, right? They're better off steering people in the right direction. It's kind of like a parent saying, you can't watch TV. As soon as the parent leaves the bedroom, the lounge, you're going to watch TV. And so I think teachers need to adopt that mindset more and more. And it's pleasing to see more of that perspective coming to light across schools and in universities. And then there are some institutions which are just going the other way. They're saying categorically, no, we're not going to basically bring this on to our students, which I think is a really interesting kind of social experiment, which is going to play out over the very, very long term. And I don't know whether that's a good thing. I don't know whether it's a bad thing, but I think we should at least be creating opportunities for young people at this stage by giving them the right guidance and steering them in the right direction, even with the caveats as part of this isn't the be all end all at the end of the day.
Oh, I completely agree. And it's the same kind of argument for using a computer or using a calculator. It doesn't take away that kind of knowledge. It's using that knowledge and applying it that kind of gets you to that solution faster. And it's just the same sort of thing with AI. And it's going to take that time for people to understand and learn and adopt that, while the people that do integrate that technology first are going to be well ahead of those others.
Absolutely. And I mean, you work closely with a lot of companies and people are reaching out for support. Like, what is the most basic use case that you're consulting on with customers?
Yeah, it's just knowledge retrieval and research is the really key one there. If I need to go and search out some information around a topic, I then have to go clicking through a whole bunch of websites, PDFs, knowledge sources, read that myself. Whereas I can use AI to summarize and extract that information for me, which is really useful. And personally, the biggest use case that I've had is just how-tos. How do I do this? How do I do an XLOOKUP in Excel? I haven't used that in a while. How do I use this new software? How do I do my tax return in New Zealand? All of this information retrieval allows me to become like a better, more well-rounded person from having access to these kind of tools.
You mentioned research is that's going beyond the deep research agents, like you're building kind of custom research agents as part of a more deterministic kind of workflow in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so in a way, we've been using Manus. So that is a kind of the agentic tooling, whereas all generative AI is kind of the more basic. You put a prompt in, you get some text or an image back. Gentic, you have a whole range of tools that it can choose to use. And Manus is really, really good at kind of researching stuff. One of the examples we're looking at here at MainPower is we want to find areas in North Canterbury that have really high road traffic but don't have any electric vehicle charges. And you can see the step-by-step process it goes through, and actually looks up NZTA data, pulls data from the councils, exports all that, does some Python analysis of it, and then give us a full executive level report. And that report actually matched majority of what the guy that currently at MainPower does around that. And that would have taken him multiple days to do, whereas this is coming back in 5 or 6 minutes. Is it 100% correct? No. But if it's giving you 80% of the work and it's just that fine tuning, that's just a huge time and cost saving across the business.
And I'm making a couple of assumptions here, but I'm gathering that people you work with at MainPower aren't of your generation or my generation across the board. There's probably quite a few kind of grey hairs within the business, I would imagine. How do they feel about, this young guy coming in with this amazing technology and showing, hey, what took you 8 to 12 hours now can take us 5 to 10 minutes? Are they stoked, or are there other perspectives that you get in response?
Yeah, it's quite a mixed bag. So the company as a whole, I think it's around half of them started working at MainPower before I was even born, which is quite a crazy stat to kind of wrap your head around. But most of the time, it is so kind of mesmerizing. I can sit down and go, hey, here's how I can cut off so many hours of tasks that you don't want to do. And they're just absolutely mind blowing. And they just really want to adopt this tooling. Initially, there is a bit of fear that went around, oh, AI is going to take my job and stuff. But that really comes from kind of misinformation, reading some news headlines, all of that kind of stuff. And when we have that sit down and chat with them around what actually AI is, where it's really useful, and it's all of those tasks that kind of humans don't have a lot of value add. It's those like continuous tasks you got to repeat a whole lot of times.
You were brought in as an AI network engineer. There was an AI agenda being driven from the top within MainPower. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so initially the role was a little bit of AI and more around kind of data and network engineering. But kind of since coming on board, I've just taken it all force and just going, hey, here's how we can use AI across the entire business. And the first couple of months was really just talking to all parts of the business, going, hey, what are you currently manually doing? And I can find different areas that we could actually implement AI with. And from there, it was a really cool moment to be able to present to the board. Not the board, sorry, the executive leadership team, and go, here are all the use cases that I think we can do. Here are some proof of concepts that I've built that are already saving people time. And it was just, again, mind blowing. And that really got the ball rolling and moving forward of, hey, we really need to embrace these tools.
I think it's a really great example where, MainPower was not a flashy tech company, but that's almost the point, right? Like you're a power distributor serving Northern Canterbury and parts of New Zealand. Like this is not Silicon Valley, but the business has found a way to see the benefits of the technology and how it can be applied to real infrastructural problems, not just theoretical ones. So, it's automating customer queries or reporting data pools, whatever it might be. Like AI doesn't need to be applied to just tech companies. I think that's a real wake up message for a lot of people in New Zealand who think, oh, it's not for us or we're behind. No, you can pick up the stuff really, really quickly with the right capabilities, but that all starts with support from the top at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like as you mentioned, like I'm coming in as a graduate, fresh out of uni. We've got people here that have had 20, 30 years experience inside of the industry. So it is that kind of back and forth between, hey, here's all this cool stuff. But then also I'm kind of in the way, bottom of the barrel in terms of the food chain. So it's really trying to bring those leadership team on board with the journey. And you really have to do that by showing the real use case and the value behind it. There's no point me sitting there and telling them AI is cool if I can show them that, and it really gets that point across.
Proving the values where it all starts, right? And you've mentioned a couple of use cases, but what else are you working on at the moment that's got you super excited? I'd love to hear some practicalities.
Yeah, so it's I guess all of the basic stuff is where we find all the quick wins. If we've got like the electricity codes, a 1,500 page document, we can load that up into a chatbot that just uses some basic RAG and pulls that information for them. The really useful chatbot that we've deployed is for our NSR, like customer service team. They get a whole bunch of questions coming from customers on the phone or email. They now can, instead of looking up manually through websites and regulations, they just pretty much ask the chatbot, The chatbot extracts that information, they fact check it before passing it on to the customer, which is just a huge time saving. And a really important thing there is that we want to keep humans in the loop. Like, we cannot have that fully automated system and risk a lot of data privacy and other issues that could go on. And having humans in the loop is really a good way of adding that human value and ensuring that that information is accurate. In terms of images, we've got two kind of really cool projects, and one is we manually pretty much had to go up and look at the top of power line poles if we wanted to inspect it for defects. We've then now got the ability to fly drones, take a whole bunch of photos, but then we still have to manually look through those photos. And so what we can actually teach these kind of AI models to do is to detect defects. And so whether that's rotting poles, missing nuts, cracked insulators, all of that kind of information, we can then train a model, fly it in the network, and then get all that information back for us, which is really cool.
That's awesome, mate. And how have you found, I suppose, as you say, being young, you mentioned that and how you've managed to navigate that industry, but you must have a fresh perspective that a lot of other folks within the business don't have, because this is just the way we've always done stuff. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have these conversations of how people are doing their day-to-day work, and it's really uncovering why are you doing this? And then they actually go, oh, wow, why am I actually doing this when this is my problem? And there's all these other ways that I could be doing this to make it a whole lot better. And I guess it does take that kind of someone to come in without that experience of the industry and just start asking those questions. And then you kind of uncover the real truths of problems that may be going on and how to solve them.
So true. I mean, as a young engineer, right, you don't have the decades of legacy thinking, right? You can see the gaps that others have overlooked for a long time because the Band-Aid solution kind of worked just fine. You're kind of coming in going, this is how this, you're not coming in saying this is how it's always been done. You're able to test ideas and help people see another way in and sort of scale it pretty quick, right? Especially without that fear of how AI tools might come and disrupt work, because you haven't grown up in that lens of, oh, there's a lot of risk with this. You've sort of just gone, there's a massive amount of opportunity. You've decided to take the view of optimism rather than scared, I suppose, or fear-based approach in this world.
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes down to kind of communication and really uncovering what are those core problems that are going on. There's kind of no point in me sitting in the corner of the office playing around with all these AI tools that I think is really cool, but then they actually have no business value. So it's really important, and we've got a pretty good workflow and going back and forth with different people inside of the business and making sure what we're actually doing is beneficial to their day-to-day work or improving that kind of area.
How do you balance the kind of strategic long-term use cases, which take a lot of time to build sometimes, and people may not see the value from those use cases until such time as they're realized? And then you've got the shorter term, quick wins, less value. Like, how do you sort of prioritize an approach where you are bubbling up some value pretty quick, but also building for some really, really strong high value use cases in the long term?
Yeah, so that's kind of the process that we're currently going on at the moment. And it's all a journey. Every company's going to be going to go through the same sort of thing. At the moment, we've been quite focused on those really quick wins. How can we implement AI to kind of just get these quick wins, but then it also helps upskill our staff and realize, actually, oh, if AI could do this, could it do this? How could I help it with this area? And we're going to go into that process of going through the business, canvassing it, getting them all through all the different ideas of implementation through. And then it kind of comes up to the ELT to basically go through the cost, the analysis, is it worthwhile for us to do, how long it takes for development, all of those kind of aspects.
And how much of the quote unquote time or budget are you able to allocate to just the innovation bucket, where we may not need to see a return necessarily, but we want to experiment in the space, versus this must show a return for the business case to stack up?
Yeah, I mean, it's really open at the moment. My day to day is almost different, almost hour by hour. I'll be working on a different project or a different concept. And that could just spun from a conversation I had in the cafe and go, oh, actually, that's really cool. I go spend the next 2 hours and whip up a little prototype or something like that. Or it's then going back to the work that's a bit more long term. So there's a lot of really independence that I'm kind of going through, which is amazing coming in as a graduate to be able to have that kind of freedom of work.
You must be making a lot of friends internally when you can take away the drudgery work, I'm sure. So if you were dropped into like a small New Zealand business today, tomorrow, next week, what AI tool would you recommend? How would you recommend the business get started with adopting AI and using it?
Yeah, I definitely would recommend just playing around with ChatGPT. It has full enterprise level data security. If you pay for any of the plans, you don't have any of your data being trained on, which is really cool. And the benefit there as well is using it in your personal life is what I find is really useful. And so if that's, hey, how can I find the cheapest heater for me near my area at PB Tech or any of these kind of tools. How can I budget and plan for my Japan trip that I want to do next year? Hop into the voice mode, have a conversation with it back and forth about what your life is like, your planning, and then even like the deep research if you want to invest in stocks or all that kind of thing. And image generation's cool. I've had a lot of people use it to generate coloring books for their kids. I think it's a really cool way of kind of understanding the technology. And you just got to start playing around with it. That's the best way you learn. And then you can integrate that back into your work environment.
There's so much low hanging fruit. My favorite use case, hands down, has got to be I just open up ChatGPT on my app, I hit the microphone on my keyboard, and I just speak into it. And the pace at which I can now draft an email or a piece of content or brain dump my thoughts before I go into a meeting or do some research is just, it's unparalleled to how I used to work. So there's so much low hanging fruit out there. It's just, as you say, making the barrier of entry as low as possible for someone so that they don't feel like they're changing their behavior, but they can see material upside in the way that they can now use these tools to be better.
Yeah, one of the cool things I recommend to do is just tell it about yourself and then ask it, how could you actually help me? I'm a 22-year-old in New Zealand. This is some information about what I'm interested in. This is what I do for a job. How can ChatGPT actually help me? And it comes back with some really useful stuff.
Mate, that's awesome. And I can't believe you're 22. You've got so much opportunity ahead that it's pretty awesome to see. So how do you see the uptake of AI in, I guess, regional New Zealand, down in the South Island, and not to be kind of cityist, like if you want to call it, like there's plenty of people in Auckland who aren't adopting it. There's plenty of people in Wellington not adopting it. But what are you seeing the uptake like in Canterbury and sort of regional places that you might engage with?
Yeah, so it's quite a mix, I guess, in a way. There's a lot of companies that are kind of striving really far forward, where there's a lot around hesitation. More around the data privacy and security is where the big concerns are. I've heard from a full range of people that kind of unlock everything for their staff to then ones that even ban Copilot when all of their stuff is in Microsoft environment already. So there's quite a lot of, I guess, potentially misinformation around there around data privacy, which kind of needs to be dealt with. And another barrier is really the knowledge and who to trust. There's a lot of people out there talking around AI on YouTube or in person and that kind of thing, but actually having the credentials behind it. It's not like software where you've had 20 years experience. No one's had 20 years experience of AI. So you've just got to kind of trust someone and go along that experimental process. In terms of Christchurch, I think it's grown really, really well. There's a monthly Christchurch AI meetup. And I think that originally when I first went, it went from 30 to 40 people, and now there's 100 people going, and it's just skyrocketing from there. So there's a huge interest in it.
That's awesome. Is that run by Kaylin Huntress?
Yes, yep, it is. Yep.
Awesome. Looking forward to catching up with that man at some point. It's fascinating. I saw a job description the other day for a role, and it had +5 years of generative AI experience with ChatGPT and Claude. And I couldn't have thought of a lazier way to write a job description and not to fact check it. It was just baffling. But as you say, no one's got more than a couple of years experience when it comes to the Gen AI kind of technologies and in reality. Broader AI data science has been around, but yeah, there's so much to learn and so much to cover, which is the hard part. And that's where, yourself is doing a great job to talk about the new innovations that are coming out. So what do you think is kind of next level? Like what's coming that you're experimenting with that you're super excited by?
It's got to be Google's VO3. I think that was the kind of mind-blowing moment, getting my hands on that and playing around. There's a thing that you can search up. It's like the Will Smith Spaghetti Eating Index. And it's like an index of how good video generation has been getting. And so you can see it's happened only 3 years, the last 3 years. And going from the very first one, where it's just absolute slop, nothing makes sense, to now a fully realistic video that you cannot tell is AI is absolutely insane. One of the examples I played around with last night was creating real estate videos. So you can take a whole bunch of photos of your house, and then you can get a realistic AI real estate agent to go around your house, speak about it. Nice 3-bed, 2-bath property. Here we are, yada, yada, yada. Keep the voice consistent, keep the agent consistent, and you cannot tell it's AI. It is mind blowing.
Super impressive. I've seen a couple of your videos and they're pretty high quality. Are you doing that all with VO3 or is that with another tool? And how are you stitching together longer than 8-second videos with the tools?
Yeah, so now you can use frames, and so you can end the last frame and then add it as the reference image for the next video. And so then it can kind of flow together a lot nicer. And when you're talking about real estate videos, for example, you're never kind of showing more than 8 seconds of an area. You're kind of skipping between one, so you can kind of get around that. And to kind of keep that character consistency as well, you can use ChatGPT image generation. If you've got a default picture, even of yourself, you can then load that into the photo of the room or whatever, and then get it to create the video with you talking about it, which is pretty cool. and it's going to be not too far away probably until you can add your own voice into that defaultly. You can do kind of voiceovers with like HeyGen and 11 Labs, but it's going to be pretty soon where you can have that all integrated, which is going to be quite interesting for the future of media.
Awesome. Wicked, mate. Well, I mean, would love to finish off with a quick fire round if you're up for it.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome. All right, ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini?
Oh, it's all three for different reasons. ChatGPT, go to daily, all of the basic Q&A, Claude, coding and rewriting content, and then Gemini for deep research, and then, of course, their VO3 video model.
Awesome. I've found Gemini to be my best friend when it comes to troubleshooting N8N. I don't know why that 2.5 Pro is just outdoes Opus or O3 or O4, just night and day. It's incredible. What's the most overhyped AI trend for you right now?
Companies saying things that they have AI in their company or product when there's no AI, or it's just kind of some basic machine learning and they're just using it to kind of advertise.
It does feel as though the old world plus AI bolt-on, those products, they don't quite work just yet. Like using, I won't name tools actually, but using some of the tools recently, they promise the world, but they don't quite give you what you need. And it's disappointing to see. Open source models or closed?
Open source, data privacy, understanding, and then a lot of tinkering as well is really beneficial.
What's one New Zealand company quietly doing great work in AI?
I've got two. Obviously, the AI Corner. I've been really enjoying all the news articles and the job postings and kind of getting a good overview. And there's also a company down here in Christchurch called Avocado AI, and they kind of focus really on upskilling and teaching kind of ChatGPT and AI usage, and they're doing really well.
Awesome. I appreciate the shout out, and good to see you getting the shout out there as well. What's your number one recommendation for people to get started in AI?
Just start. Just go on ChatGPT, have a conversation with it. The voice mode is crazy good. Ask it questions, incorporate it in your life. Like, for example, my dehumidifier stopped working. I took a photo of it, and then found the serial number, went online, found all the guides and documents, and told me how to fix it. And it just helps me out kind of in every part of my life, and it's really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Blake, for joining us today, and thank you to our listeners. Please subscribe to the channel for weekly episodes and to hear more from the people building New Zealand's AI future. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to the AI Corner.